Okay, we're obviously back at it. We've been at it a while, so my time's limited. I'm working on Thanksgiving dinner, so anybody's got questions, fire away. I don't want to get anybody cut short by Gavin saying any more questions for Coach. So I'm ready to roll.
What is this class of seniors that's going to be from the last home game? What have they been to this?
Yeah, it's special. These guys, from top to bottom, you hear a lot about Washington and Rudolph and Whitener and Flowers, certain guys, but the core group of these guys that have been here 4 or 5 years have won a lot of games and been very successful. And I mentioned this to you last week, but for me, their contribution to society, what they do. For example, in Stillwater, we have 400 homeless people, and this team. What? Oh, I thought that was big man talking to me. Thought I thought he was still upset over the game. So it was a big man talking to me. Lost my train of thought there. I had something good. Oh, these guys, for example, there's 400 homeless people in Stillwater, okay? And our team pitches in and they feed them every Thanksgiving. And we hand out boxes of food, turkeys, canned goods, so and so. And that takes place on Sunday, which was yesterday. And I got to work early Sunday morning. I was here at 5:50 in the morning because I don't sleep well, much less when we don't play well. I don't sleep well. So I just forget it. Got up, came to work. And my only goal outside of football was to make sure that I went over there and we hand the food out. I've done it for years, and I forgot about it, and I felt terrible. And so I went in to Danielle, my assistant, and I said, I forgot about going over to hand the food out because they meet over at the indoor. And I said, why didn't somebody tell me? And they're like, oh, well, we thought you were busy. And I said, I'm not too busy for that. So it's my fault. I didn't write it down. I forgot. But you can imagine I'm in special teams, defense, offense, saying, okay, what happened? How do we fix it? And I forgot. First time in years I haven't done it. I felt terrible. And I said, so, well, who was there for me? Mason Rudolph, Dylan Stoner. I mean, I'm just giving you an example of guys, 10 or 12 guys, okay? And here's a guy that threw a couple interceptions and felt like he had an overthrow late that, I mean, he had a good game, but on his standards, not as good as he wanted to. He shows up the next day, hands out food to people that are homeless. That's the kind of kids that we have here. That makes me most proud. Our APR went from the low 900s to 1,000. So that's the kind of group of guys we have, much less from a football standpoint. We've known they've been in the top 15 in the country the last 4 or 5 years, arguably every year.
Does that kind of go into the culture that you talked about that you built around here that you're pretty proud of?
Yeah, it's when we lose games like that, when I told you guys, I said, I'm going to be up front with you. I thought we had the best team, all the credit in the world to that staff and coach and their players. But my job's to evaluate talent, and I thought that's a game we should have won. And so that goes back to the culture that we've created here. When you go home and you're disappointed, like there's certain games that we lose, I'm not disappointed. I'm upset because I want the team to win, but I was disappointed after this last game. Then you go back to the culture, makes you feel a little better. It gives you something to hang your hat on. That's why you got to do things right all the time. Otherwise, if you don't have that, you just be upset. If you just hang your hat on wins and losses. I know you got to win. If not, you don't have a job, whatever. I'm for all that. But for me, that's important. These seniors, they're good people. They do the right thing.
What's the mindset of the team right now, and how do you expect them to come out in the next game?
I say this every week, and I'll say it again. Sundays are not very fun here when you lose, because that's everything that builds up to 1 week of preparation. So for me to come in here and say everybody's happy and passing around lollipops and telling jokes is not the way it is. There's some long faces, but that's my job to fix it. And the culture that we have allows them, and it should, that you get your butt ready to play the next game. it's the same way when you have a big win. Sometimes maybe a little worse because they're floating on cloud nine, and human nature is tell me how good I am. I love that. You know, it's like, you know, with your wife or girlfriends or whatever. If you keep telling them how nice she looks, it's going to pay off for you at some point. Okay? Well, it's the same thing when winning and losing. People tell you all the time how good you are. Man, I'm pretty good. I don't know if I got to go as hard on that rep. But when you lose, the difficult part is you got to look in the mirror and say, what could I have done better? Same thing with me and the staff. Nobody really likes me on Sundays, and they darn sure don't like me when we lose, because I have to look at them and say, this was not good. This was not good. We didn't put them in a position for success. We did not evaluate this right. This is not good. And then it's, you know, with me, I'm involved on special teams. I worked all week on kick coverage. So I had to turn around and look in the mirror and say, that's not very good. It didn't work. That's what we do on Sundays. So it's not quite as fun.
Did your early morning work on Sunday, even though you missed out without food, did it reveal any additional answers that you maybe didn't see on Saturday?
You know, I just got off the phone with Neuheisel and those guys, and we lost the turnover battle, and we gave up 7 points on special teams. We had 7 3-and-outs on defense. That's pretty good. But you gave up 4 huge plays. So they used the formula that we've used for years around here. You get us 3-and-out a few times, you get us 3-and-out, but we're eventually going to get you on a big play. Well, we got a little bit of our own medicine. And in the end, what it came down to is the 7 points on the kickoff return. We won the penalties. Okay, I think we were 2 for 20 and they were 5 for 50-something. Usually, you have to, against coach, you have to defend the quarterback run, which allows for some big plays. Last year, we got gashed on the quarterback run, so big plays weren't a factor. This year, we stopped it, but we got hit on big plays. But we won the penalty game, which is the first time in a long time, but we got hit by the 7 points on the kick return. That's what it came down to.
Coach Darian Daniels was a sling on the sideline. Is he going to be okay for the rest of the season, or do you have an update on
Well,
him?
we'll know a lot more on him either Tuesday or Wednesday. That didn't help either, but that's life. That's the way it is.
Mike, big picture for a second, if you don't mind.
What's that?
Big picture, if you don't mind, for just a second. You've been high on this group's talent and character since last spring, last winter. It's fair to say, for obvious reasons. Do you worry about there being a missed opportunity element to this season?
Sure. Yeah. You talking about winning 15 games or 14?
Your Big 12
Yeah.
playoff, all the things you have to do to get where you want to go. They're sort of off the table now.
Well, they are off the table. As sad as it is, but I worry about that every year. Here's what I tell the team. They guarantee you get to play 12. And then now in our league, if you play good enough, you get the championship game. And then if you do really good, you could potentially get 2 more, right? So the maximum is 15. Let's just say that you have an unbelievable year and you play 14 or 15 games. That's all you get for 365 days. It's not like basketball or baseball or where you get to play a lot of games. So there's a lot of work that goes in with a group of guys, and I always worry about a missed opportunity. And that's in my mind all the time. That's the one issue I have. I'm pretty good about everything else. I know the talent we have, where our weaknesses are, the talent we compete against. Believe it or not, I'm pretty good at that. But I always worry about missed opportunities and what could you do better. So, yes, I worry about that all the time.
You worry that this type of group won't come along again for however many years?
Well,
this was your year to sort of
yeah,
stride.
they're gone, obviously. But here's the good news. If you go back to about 2000 and the year we went to the Holiday Bowl, I don't know what year it was. Was that 9? Okay, we were pretty good. That was the year that we played Texas. They were number 1 in the country, and we lost at the end of the game 24-20, right? And we were driving to have a chance to win, and I was calling plays, and I screwed it up because I tried to get fancy instead of just throwing it to Dez, because Dez was better than everybody, and I learned a great lesson there. Let's out-coach him. That worked great. Just throw it to Dez. Regardless, we were really good then. So we've had, you said 8? So 8 up until this year, which is 17. If you look at our track record, let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 10 years. I'm going to bet you, and this is just off the cup, I'm going to bet you that 7 of those 10 years that we could have played with anybody in the country on any given day. I could be wrong. Let's do it real quick. 8, we were pretty good. What did we do in 9? We were pretty good. 10, we were real good. What did we do in 11? We were good in 11. Well, I'm just saying, I'm just going to count here. I mean, once we get past this thumb, I'm going to have a struggle because, you know, I'm not good past this thumb. What about 13?
13 was Cotton Bowl.
Okay. Who was the quarterback?
Kunschel.
Yeah, once we got going, we were pretty good. Well, 14, who were, or the next year?
14.
All right. 15, what did we do?
Sugar Bowl.
Okay. And we got hurt in the Sugar Bowl, right? Mason was out. We had issue. He was hurt. He had a broken something foot, right? And then what years after that? 16? We were pretty good. So I was right, dead right. I promise I did not prepare. This is not a prepared statement. So 7 of the 10, we've had a chance. So I'm in the boat with you, but I feel good about. We'll come back. We'll be around. We'll be there.
But this group seemed unique. You'd say that's true, though, right? This seemed like a unique.
Now you're trying to ask and answer a question. Now, and I'm going to say this is that, but that was that way the year we won the Fiesta Bowl. They were unique. They were special, and we rallied back around. The Sugar Bowl year, we had a few injuries that were a problem. We were pretty good that year, but yes, I know you got a story written and you're just confirming it. Yes, this was a special group, and does that part eat on me that they couldn't get to whatever their ultimate goal was? Yes, it does. But life is full of events that make us not feel so good about things, and that's why we believe in systems and things that say, okay, let's keep rolling. Until you can't draw another breath, you got a chance.
When Mason and James stepped on this campus 4 years ago, did you know that together they were going to be something pretty special?
I didn't know anything about James other than he was from a small town, and when you go to a home basketball game at his high school, half the people in the crowd are his family. That's all I knew. Casey Dunn was head over heels over him. I had a hard time buying into recruiting him because when he played on tape, it was like him out there now versus a bunch of junior high kids, just because he was so much faster and more athletic than everybody on tape. And then when I went and watched him play a basketball game, he jumped up to get a rebound, and his hand went to the top of the backboard, and I was like, whoa. Then I knew he was pretty good, but the second part of it, didn't know. After he was here a year, I felt like he was going to be pretty good. Now, to the point where now, you know, I mean, he's going to win the Biletnikoff winner. That gives us 3 and 8, I think, 3 and 8 years, because I was thinking about that the other day. Did I know he was Biletnikoff category? I don't know if you know that then. I wasn't sure about Mason because I didn't play him as a freshman. Now, would I have played him then? Probably not. But after they had been here about a year and a half and they started rolling, those two are pretty special together.
What do you think Mason's legacy impact will be here from just what he's been able to do?
He will leave here as the most decorated player since Barry Sanders, in my opinion. And that's just based on Barry playing back when we played in the caveman days, and there was no social media, and you'd be surprised how many people in the country didn't even know that he played and or saw him play, how special he was. Can you imagine nowadays the runs and things he did? He would be he would be like me. I mean, he'd be like, everybody in the world would be like, wow, that guy's, well, they'd say he's awesome and this guy's crazy. But the point is he will leave as the most decorated player since then, in my opinion. And why not? He's won a ton of games. He plays with broken ribs. He's played with a broken foot. I think he's leading the nation in passing. You know, he felt terrible after the game. He would have liked to hit a couple more passes. He's been tremendous for this school and tremendous in society. I told you last week I had a conversation with his mom and dad. Did I tell you all that, or was I talking to somebody else? And I told him, for everything he's done out there as a parent of 3 boys, you should be more proud of what he's done here than out there, because that's not going to last forever. He's awesome.
Looking ahead to Kansas, do you see Doug Beacham's fingerprints on the offense?
Yeah, they're doing some of the same stuff. You know what's interesting with them is that I know what their record is, but they've had times where they've either in offense or defense where they've played pretty good. You know, you watch the Oklahoma game and you're like, okay. If 6 wasn't playing, how many points would they have? And then you watch the Texas game where offensively they score points, twice as many as we did when we were there. I'm not in their camp, but they're going to probably say if we cut our turnovers in half, we're probably going to play a lot better this year. I don't know. Coach Beatty, I mean, I know him, but I'm just saying that's kind of what you get when you see him.
I don't know what the friction was between those two schools Saturday, OU and Kansas, but Kansas's captains didn't shake hands. I'm pretty sure that's not something you would endorse. But do you now talk to your guys you send out to midfield and say, hey, look, and do you even worry about it with this crew because of the culture you've created about, hey, you know, we got to be sportsmen? Because it did kind of set that game off to everything else that happened. I don't know if you're aware of everything that happened, but.
Well, with you being a homer, I'm surprised you put me on the spot here and asked me that question in front of the world. I don't have a clue, Robert. And honestly, I didn't know about it until when I went home. It was dark, and I'm talking about Saturday night, and so I bypassed the house and went back in and showered and decided I was going to go to bed early. So I doubled up on my sleeping pills and I went to bed. And I had a new dimmer system, light switch dimmer system put in my kitchen where we could make the lights not as bright as whatever. So the Sunday I get a call from the guy that did it for me. He asked me how I like the dimmer. And I said, I don't even know there was a dimmer. I didn't dim anything. The only thing that was dim was my brain afterwards. And so I have to go back to that. I did not know that this happened with Baker until Sunday mid-morning, and somebody asked me about it or whatever. I didn't know what they were talking about. I actually thought it happened after the game. And then since then, you know, you've heard enough conversation, but that's not even something I would even get into. I don't know what all's going on. Yeah, I mean.
You expect your captains to go out and
Well,
shake hands and all that. I mean,
and
you don't-
again, I don't know what went on with Kansas. I don't know what happened behind closed doors. I don't know what's been instigated. I don't have a clue. I just know that we would probably normal protocol unless there was something that instigated otherwise would be my only answer for that.
Mike, you guys have made a bunch of efforts the last few years to shift scholarships, recruit more depth in the defensive end, and here you are, month of November, you really had 2 cornerbacks on the field in each of the last 3 games. How do you build that up to where, you know, I mean, part of Saturday looked like Green and Rodarius are starting to wear down.
They are. There's some truth to that. As much as I hate to give you guys credit, yeah, sure. But I mentioned that a month ago, but I was concerned about it, right? You carry tape recorders. You can check my records. I mentioned that. We had discipline issues on our team, and we had a couple guys that didn't fall into the culture here. And so if they don't fall into this culture, they can't be here. And I don't like that, but that's why we're in the position we are. But as we mentioned, the big picture here is the culture. And could that have played a role Saturday? You bet it did. But I'm okay with that because I've got 122 class guys in this organization, period. That's more important to me than anything else, as much as we have to win and lose. So what you're saying is right. 4 and 8 are tired. 31's tired, even though he got a little bit of a break Saturday. But the flip side of that is this: everybody's tired. So they got to find a way to practice. They got to work hard. They got the call. We're looking in the backfield out here Saturday. I mean, that was a bigger issue than fatigue, in my opinion.
Coach, you said that you still believe in your assistants to help right the ship in the future. What makes you so confident in them?
You talking about with getting the players ready?
Yeah.
We've got quality people here. We don't have all the answers. Do we make mistakes? Do I feel like at times we got out-coached? Sure. Have we out-coached people? Sure. There's 200 people in this organization. Everybody follows and has chain of command and understands the culture, and with me too. It's all the same. And we don't waver from that. And even though we have sacrifices along the way, when we started this thing 14 years ago, there were a lot of sacrifices. And then they've gotten dwindled, is it dwindled or dwindled? Huh? Dwindled, yeah, I was bad. My consonants were bad to start and finish. Down to where we don't have many of them anymore. But we've had a few at the position that we talked about, and it factored in some. But it's okay, we'll rally back. And our coaches will be fine. They have a responsibility to say, okay, this was not good. This was good. This was poor. It's my fault. And then you go into the team and say, this is my fault. This part was your fault. You fix yours, we're going to try to fix ours. And it's never going to be perfect. I haven't seen it yet in 30 years of college football.
I was looking this morning, you guys, the offense has 21 turnovers in 11 games, 8th in the Big 12, and most that you guys have had in quite a long time. Is that, I mean, that's something that nobody would have expected at the start of this year in the offense.
A little bit of that is being involved in shootout games. We've been in a number of them now. If you go back, you go to this game, Iowa State, West Virginia, Texas. We get in some shootouts, and so you're in a little bit more of a throw-a-thon than what you would normally be. And I've already done the homework on that. We should have been sitting at about 15 right now, and we're not. But you certainly have to. The game's real simple. You gotta avoid big plays, and you gotta win the turnover game, and you gotta be sound in special teams. And we've played better in special teams over the last 2 or 3 games, but the return we gave up Saturday, other than that, we were good. So we're gonna work hard to continue improvement in that area. You got to work. We're gonna throw it. I mean, we're gonna be aggressive, but we need to try to do the best we can to minimize those. But it's not gonna put us in a shell. We're not gonna go in a shell. Good. All right. Thanks, guys.